Now that you're speaking out, do more. Do more. Help fight crime. Do the right thing and report what you know. Do the right thing and publicly demand change. Hold government accountable for better governance. Protect your environment and health. Do the right thing and keep your community clean. If we all do the right thing and build integrity, Jamaica will be the place to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Thank you for stopping by and diving into Jamaica's incredible military history. In partnership with the Jamaica Defense Force, we've created this special online exhibition to celebrate the courage, sacrifice, and heroism of our nation's defenders. Get ready to explore stories of bravery, proud moments, and remarkable achievements, all from the comfort of your own home. We invite you to immerse yourself in Jamaica's military heritage and discover the legacy of those who serve. Enjoy the journey.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs on our manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your hand with water and soap. Keep dirty hands from your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want to be sick, take care. Practice every day, no germs around here. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Public sector transformation is national policy. Tune in to PBCJ for the 4-part docuseries Building a Better Public Sector, starting Sunday, March 8th at 1 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Mondays at 9 p.m. Presented by the Transformation Implementation Unit. Breathe in the breath of life. Saturdays and Sundays at 7:30 a.m., Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5:30 a.m. on PBCJ, the People's Station.
How do bills become law in Jamaica? Laws are made to create order, to ensure our safety, and to protect our rights against abuses by other citizens, organizations, and even the government itself. A bill is a proposal for either a new law or for a change to an existing law. Jamaica's Parliament is responsible for making our laws, and that responsibility is shared between two houses. There are 21 parliamentarians appointed from both political parties to the upper house, also known as the Senate. And there are 63 members of parliament that we, the people, elect to the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives. To pass a law, there is a minimum of 6 stages required in each house. The process can begin in the upper house by a senator or in the lower house by your member of parliament. And their proposals for a new bill can certainly start with you, the citizen. Now, since the process often begins in the House of Representatives, let's start there. 1. The first stage begins with the introduction by the minister responsible for the bill, followed by the first reading of the bill by the clerk to the houses. This clerk is more like the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer for the Parliament. An announcement of the bill is published in the Gazette. This is a public newsletter that the government uses to inform the citizens of what the Parliament is doing on your behalf. 2. The second reading begins with a summary of the bill by the minister. The main reasons for the bill are discussed both by the government and opposition members to determine if Jamaicans would really be better off with the new law or changes to an existing law. A vote is taken by the House to determine if the bill will move to the committee stage. Sometimes before going to that stage, the minister responsible for the bill can recommend the use of a joint select committee. It's called joint as its members are taken from both the upper and lower house. To benefit from greater consultation, the committee is empowered to invite the public to share their views of the bill in writing or in person, and does so through radio, TV, and newspaper adverts. This joint select committee submits its recommendations to the House of Representatives. The House debates this report, and a vote is taken to determine if the bill should go on to the committee stage, where it is examined by a committee of the whole House. Yes, That's the name. And that's what it is. A committee of all the members of Parliament that carefully examines each clause and makes improvements to ensure the bill will achieve its objectives. As chairman, the Speaker of the House monitors the process to make sure the rules of the House are obeyed and the process moves along smoothly. 4. The Committee of the whole House examines the bill clause by clause, then sends its recommendations for changes to the House of Representatives. This is called the report stage. 5. The bill then passes to the third reading to allow a final opportunity for MPs to make changes before it is sent to senators in the upper house. 6 to 10. In the upper house, the senators go through the same steps we just described. If any changes are made, the bill has to be returned to the House of Representatives for their discussion and approval. Now, if the bill had started in the upper house, it would also have to be returned to them for approval of any changes made by the lower house. 11. Throughout the entire process, the bill is being checked by the Legislative Council. That's the Parliament's lawyer. But before the last step, a copy is sent to the Attorney General of Jamaica for final review and certification. 12. If all is well, the bill is sent to receive the royal assent from the Governor General as the representative of the Queen, Elizabeth II. The bill is now an Act of Parliament. The Act is gazetted, and the rights of Jamaicans are further preserved and protected by a new law.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
I wonder who that somebody be. No, sir. Let me look for my glasses. Oh, that's my day look like rice up. It's Lottie walk on. Me glad for see you, Roy. Although things never go on for you, America, me glad say you there.
Yeah.
Lift your head high.
Yeah.
Stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And you can have a fresh start back home.
All right, Mr. G. Conch, you here?
Let's all work together for a fresh start back home.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Hi everyone, here are 5 benefits of being a beneficiary of the Students' Loan Bureau. 1. Benefit from our 99% approval rate. 2. Benefit from our low interest rate, so less burden when you need to repay. 3. Benefit from the fact that we require no collateral when applying. 4. We're giving you more time to focus on your studies while we focus on the financing. No need to worry about repaying while in school. Number 5. Receive a 14 months grace period after your graduation date before you enter repayment. Don't forget to follow us on all SLB platforms for more SLB info.
I wonder who that somebody be. No, sir. Let me look for my glasses. Oh, that's my day look like rice up.
It's Lottie walk on.
Me glad for see you, Roy. Although things never go on for you, America, me glad say you there.
Yeah.
Lift your head high.
Yeah.
Stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
And you can have a fresh start back home.
All right, Mr. G. Conch, you here?
Let's all work together for a fresh start back home.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Yo, babes, why me I call you so much time and I not get you? Sorry me lick you again yesterday. Yo, me know me mess up, but I can't wear them something there road and I expect me to react. I know me jealous and fool and easy to lose my temper, but call me back here. Still not get tired. Hey, girl, think me have to call your phone? You know who you deal with? You think I want lick me again next time? Eh?
It doesn't have to be this way. You can leave an abusive relationship. Just call 0372. We will help you.
What if I told you that you own thousands of acres of land, more than 100 companies with over 100,000 employees and billions in the bank? Well, I have news for you. You do. Jamaica belongs to you, and you need expert protection to safeguard those assets for your future, your children, and your children's children. And you already have it. A key protector is our Auditor General, whose role is outlined by the biggest, baddest law in all the land, the Constitution. The Auditor General's main job is to examine the financial reports of all public entities to ensure that they are accurate and that public funds are used appropriately and effectively to deliver public goods and services without waste, theft, and mismanagement. Here's how it's done. A team of highly trained auditors reviews and verifies that the right amount of money is spent on only what's approved in the national budget and in accordance with the laws and policies that protect public resources. Now, the right amount of money can be spent on the right things and Jamaicans still no benefit. So the Auditor General assesses the outcome for programs and projects as well. Audit reports will also contain recommendations to improve the operations of the audited entity, and the findings are submitted to the Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, the PAC. Every year, an annual report is submitted by December 31. Both government and opposition MPs serve on the PAC, and they summon public entity managers to answer questions so that they and the public, the real owners, yes, you, can understand what went wrong and how to prevent a recurrence. What are some things that can and do go wrong? Cost and time overruns, missing financial reports, unreported losses, unauthorized spending, unsupported payments, unlawful contracting, undisclosed conflict of interest, and more. Though the AG identifies the abuse of laws and policies, the law does not empower that office to penalize or sanction, but it does empower the Financial Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. It is also the duty of other anti-corruption and law enforcement bodies to grab the baton and investigate to ensure penalties are applied when appropriate. But the AG alone can't watch all. So when things don't look straight, the Minister of Finance, members of Parliament, Cabinet, public servants, and importantly, you must blow the whistle and the AG will look deeper. So this is where you come in, with 4 things you can do to strengthen those who are fighting to protect our future. Tune into PBCJ on Tuesdays for the PAC and mind your business, Jamaica. It's our belongings, but we have to move like we understand that. And next time you hear a news report about the AG, you just left it up to the media. Visit the AG's website at www.auditorgeneral.gov.jm and check out the findings yourself. Then, keep track of how government has fixed the issue, or not, at www.jampja.org's Accountometer. And if you're not happy with what you see, it's your job to contact your employees. It's easy when you visit the MP tracker on jampja.org. This is how we can do our part to make Jamaica land we own, Jamaica land we love, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter portal, funded by the European Union and UK Aid.
When the storm rages and the world feels shaken, remember, our strength lies in unity. It's in coming together, sharing hope, and standing shoulder to shoulder that we find resilience. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement builds a brighter tomorrow. We are stronger as one. Our courage, compassion, and hope will light the way forward. Together we rise. Together we rebuild, because hope is never lost when we stand united, because we are stronger together.
Peace begins with us. Every act of kindness, Every step towards understanding brings us closer to a brighter tomorrow. Let's choose unity, compassion, and hope. Together, we can build a future where peace reigns.
Brighter tomorrow starting today.
Hey, I'm Abijah, the Rootsman. Today, I want to talk to you about something powerful. Peace. Peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's about kindness, understanding, and respect. It starts with us. Every choice we make can build bridges or burn them. Let's choose peace in our words, our action, and our hearts. Peace begins with you. Together, we can create a brighter and safer future for everyone. Join me. Let's be that change we want to see.
Are you an entrepreneur producing an excellent Jamaican product or service? Did you know you can earn hard currency and more significant returns by exporting? Contact the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to help propel your business along the export lane.
Everything you can produce, the Jamaicans overseas want it. We're not going to get rich by just bringing down the debt. We're going to get rich by exporting a lot more. So grow exports, create job opportunities, drive economic growth through exports to make Jamaica a richer and much more prosperous country.
Cook it up and make us steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make us roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought, so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia, so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make us fry it. Fresh, so me need it. Tilapia, a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein, and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
In Jamaica, there needs to be one law for all. Every member of this society, regardless of profession, finances, or the area you live in.
I have some bad news.
The company didn't get the contract?
The money they paid us for it has gotten out.
Are you serious?
I'm afraid so, and I understand that there are going to be corruption charges.
Minister, please come with us, sir.
Breaking news. A senior politician and senior civil servant have been charged for corruption.
Thank God not all of them stay, sir.
Build integrity. One law for all.
A message from NIA.
Join the People's Station for the 4-part docuseries Building a Better Public Sector, premiering Sunday, March 8th at 1 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Mondays at 9 p.m. Presented by the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Motorists, as Minister of Justice, I appeal to you, obey the road code, pay your ticket on time, and only go to court if the ticket is being contested. Close to 80% of matters coming to the parish courts are for traffic breaches. Let's work together to make our roads safe and ease the burden on our courts.
Join the conversation focusing on Jamaica's development. Tune in to the post-cabinet press briefings. Wednesdays live at 9 a.m. with a rebroadcast at 9 p.m. right here on PBCJ, the People's Station. Embark on a journey to discover the truth that sets us free. Join us on Tomorrow's World, your weekly source of hope, answers, and divine insight. Sundays at 9 a.m. with rebroadcasts on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:30 a.m. Tune in right here on PBCJ, the People's Station, and be inspired.
Today, we can report 2 consecutive years of reduction in major crimes and murders, with a significant reduction of almost 20% in murders for 2024.
Between January 2022 and January 2025, we have reduced murders by 51%. And January 2025 had the lowest monthly murder count since September 2014.
Our efforts have also resulted in the reduction of active gangs by 50%. We continue to increase firearm seizures, and in more communities, we are experiencing less violence. We will realize our vision of Jamaica as the place of choice to live, work, do business, raise families, and retire in peace and prosperity.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Most Jamaicans will tell you corruption in politics is deep-rooted, and that's just so it's said, and nothing can do about that. But actually, there is, and another 152 countries are doing it. It's called asset declaration, and it works best where citizens themselves understand it and help to ensure the law is enforced. Corruption happens when public officials abuse their power to benefit themselves, family, or associates. Jamaica's Integrity Commission Act was designed to prevent corruption, and here are 5 things you should know. 1. Under this law, every year MPs and senators must report what they earn, own, and owe, and if they don't, they'll be sanctioned. 2. Their report must include the same kind of information for their wife or husband and children. 3. If they get a gift worth more than $100,000 from anyone who's not family, they must declare it. 4. A summary of the declarations of our Prime Minister and opposition leader must be published where the public can read it. 5. Parliamentarians can now be prosecuted by the Integrity Commission. They can be fined up to $2 million or serve up to 2 years in prison if they don't file the declaration or if they give false information, and $500,000 for not filing on time or ignoring requests for information. Unfortunately, our parliamentarians made changes that prevent the public from knowing when they've broken the law or when they're being investigated. We really need to change that. Visit jampja.org to find out more about the Act and to track if your MP is obeying this law. If they're not, JAMP's MP Tracker will help you write, tweet, or call your MP. Ask them, you submit your declaration yet? The Integrity Commission clear you? Let's help the Parliament stay honest.
A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Are you an entrepreneur producing an excellent Jamaican product or service? Did you know you can earn hard currency and more significant returns by exporting? Contact the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to help propel your business along the export lane.
Everything you can produce, the Jamaicans overseas want it. We're not going to get rich by just bringing down the debt. We're going to get rich by exporting a lot more. So grow exports, create job opportunities, drive economic growth through exports to make Jamaica a richer and much more prosperous country.
$1.4 trillion. That's how much the government plans to spend this fiscal year.
Watch PBCJ's live coverage of the budget debate, March 10 to March 24, as the government outlines financial plans for the upcoming fiscal year, detailing funding for health, education, national security, social security, food security, and infrastructure. The budget debate. They serve as a performance assessment of the previous year and a public declaration of our leaders' intended priorities. Watch the budget debate on our television station. Join the discussion on social media, live on the People's Station, PBCJ.
Speeding kills. Obey the speed limit. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
I wonder who that somebody be. No, sir. Let me look for my glasses. Oh, how does somebody look like right, sir? It's Lottie walk on. Me glad for see you, right? Although things never go on for you, America, me glad say you there.
Yeah.
Lift your head high.
Yeah.
Be out of trouble.
Yeah.
And you can have a fresh start back home.
All right, Mr. P. Conch, you here?
Let's all work together for a fresh start back home.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Are you an entrepreneur producing an excellent Jamaican product or service? Did you know you can earn hard currency and more significant returns by exporting? Contact the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to help propel your business along the export lane.
Everything you can produce, the Jamaicans overseas want it. We're not going to get rich by just bringing down the debt. We're going to get rich by exporting a lot more. So grow exports, create job opportunities, drive economic growth through exports to make Jamaica a richer and much more prosperous country.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs and manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your hand with water and soap. Keep dirty hands from your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want to be sick, take care. Practice every day, no germs around here. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Every year, the Jamaican Parliament approves billions of our taxes to be spent on goods and services provided by the private sector. Everything from pens to power plants, cleaning services to construction are obtained through a process called public procurement. But who funds this process? Citizens do. And we want our taxes to be spent wisely. When we talk about public procurement, there's a critical concept called value for money. We hear it in the Parliament all the time, but what does it really mean? Some think value for money means choosing the cheapest option, but it's more than that. For example, a community needs a new bridge, and the government receives bids from 3 companies. Company A offers to build it for $10 million in 18 months with a 50-year lifespan. Company B wants $12 million to finish in 12 months with a 75-year lifespan. Company C asks for $8 million, needs 24 months with a 25-year lifespan. Company B actually offers the best value for money. To determine that, we look for 4 crucial factors: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. Let's explore what each means. For economy, we must look beyond the upfront price and consider the full lifetime costs to maintain the bridge. Cheaper options could lead to frequent and expensive repairs. We get efficiency if the bridge is built within budget and on time, with no waste of materials. To achieve this, we need the best team, and clear criteria helps the government to pick the best proposal. Effectiveness looks at whether the government achieves its goal. This could require a community needs assessment to ensure the bridge will reduce transport costs and travel time, withstand the annual flooding with little disturbance to plant and animal life. Finally, equity. This is about fairness, satisfying the different needs of the community. The bridge design considers not just cars and pedestrians, but is sensitive to the needs of the elderly, the disabled community, and children. So when we're talking about value for money, don't just ask how much it did cost. Ask, what are we truly getting for our money? The cheapest option today can become the most expensive mistake tomorrow. So from now on, let's ask the right questions for Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, full in it. A tilapia so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
Na 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 na, we want a piece for Jamaica. Yeah, yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah, yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life, while we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. I make the violence the world. Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today.
Na 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 na, we want a piece for Jamaica. Yeah, yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah, yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life, while we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. I make the violence the world.
Join the People's Station for the 4-part docuseries Building a Better Public Sector, premiering Sunday, March 8th at 1 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Mondays at 9 p.m. Presented by the Transformation Implementation Unit.
Zoom in on the nutrition facts. Get the in at the table, on the side or the back. You fi check out the servings, just do the maths. Not taking too much, finger below the facts. Zoom in on the nutrition facts. Get the in at the table, on the side or the back. Take note of the sodium, the sugars and the fats. 5% or less in the on the right track. You fi zoom in on the nutrition facts. Get the in at the table, on the side or the back. Vitamins, minerals and vitamin 2, 20% and more that good for you. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. Less sugar, less salt, intake and less fat. You fi zoom in.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica Moves, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the National Health Fund, and Japan.
Remember that big project the government announced them was going to from when? You ever catch yourself a wonder what to it? Stop wonder like an outsider and start move like the country belong to you. You have a right to publicly owned information, and the Access to Information Act gives you that power. I know you have enough questions about how government are run or not run, so let me show you how it works. Say mosquito spraying going on in your community, your children asthmatic, and you want to know what chemicals are in it. Or what about that Auditor General report on a public official getting twice his salary with no proper approval? Is your taxes and you want to know if they paid it back? First, do some basic searching to see what is already on government websites. If you don't see what you're looking for, make a formal ATI request by completing the application form on the ATI site or sending a letter or email. And remember, you don't have to say why you need it. It is your right to know. Make sure you send your request to the right agency, and once they confirm receipt, they get 30 calendar days to provide the information. A maximum of 60 if extra time is needed. Yes, I know you want access to everything, but sensitive documents are protected from the public for up to 20 years. For example, documents that would expose a citizen's personal privacy, or those dealing with cabinet discussions, the Governor General's office, or information on the investigative activities of the security forces. Any public officer who tries to destroy or hide any official document can be sanctioned. And if you're having difficulties, the ATI unit will help. So, what if the chemicals in the mosquito spray are toxic? What if the agency did not even try to get back the money they paid out? Call or email your MP. Share the concern, because as your elected representative, they can represent your questions to the government ministers in the House. Remember, it is the job of parliamentarians to monitor and hold the government to account on your behalf. Is not every country gives citizens this kind of power, you know? And at 20 years we have this law, and we barely use it. So access information and mind your business, Jamaica. Visit jampja.org today to see what information we access to make it easier for you to hold the government to account. Let's do our job to make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union in partnership.
Almighty God, by whom alone kings reign and princes decree justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding. We thine unworthy servants here gathered together, in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thine heavenly wisdom from above to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that we, having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsel may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the king, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. This Honourable House now resumes its sitting. I wish to welcome all here to the sitting of the House for today, Tuesday, March 2026. As always, it's an honor and this honorable House now resumes its sitting. I wish to welcome all to this sitting of the House of Representatives for today, Tuesday, 24th of March, 2026. As always, it's an honor and privilege to do so. Today, we'll be hearing from the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, who will conclude the budget debate for the financial year. I trust that the Minister will, as always, deliver a well-thought-out presentation and that we all will be very attentive. I wish to welcome members of her constituency from St. Andrew Eastern, whom I see in the gallery here to support our Minister of Finance. I welcome also those joining us via the various social media platforms, particularly PBCJ Live, and for all who are joining us generally in the gallery. Welcome to today's sitting. I hope you will have a wonderful time here today. Call of the roll, Clerk.
Mr. Clark, here. Mr. Green, present. Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Bartlett, Ms. Grange, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Montague, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Morgan, Ambassador Marks, Mr. Samuda, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terry Long, Mr. Whittle, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Ms. Morrison, Ms. Lee, Mr. Donovan Williams, Mr. Main, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Delroy Williams, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Sivright, Mr. Azan, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown-Burke, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Bunting, Ms. Burchell, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Goulding, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Hales, Mr. Hines, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Jess, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mrs. Miller Bennett, Mr. Morris, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Newell, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Perkis, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Dr. Russell, Ms. Shaw, Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaz, and Mr. Warmington, Dr. Holness. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, we could go straight through the agenda to public business.
Thank you, House Leader. Statement by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House are the following: Jamaica Survey of Living Conditions 2023, the Insurance Amendment of 20th Schedule Regulations 2026 under the Insurance Act, the Pension Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes, Registration, Licensing and Reporting Amendment Regulations 2026, and this resolution under the Pension Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes Act. And finally, the Conch Export Levy, Rate of Levy Order 2026, and this resolution under the Conch Export Levy Act. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally. Questions and answers to questions, motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to the sitting of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained, public business. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, today we will close the budget debate. We will have a presentation from our Minister of Finance. We have gone through the opening and the response from the opposition. I think we are all still processing the excellent presentation by our Prime Minister on Thursday. And this is now, Madam Speaker, the proverbial icing on the cake. So, Madam Speaker, we turn over to our extremely competent Minister of Finance, the Honourable Fayval Williams, Minister of Finance and the Public Service.
House Leader, read time.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the time be suspended to enable the Minister of Finance to speak without interruption.
Yes. Members, the question is that it's time limits be suspended to allow for the completion of the debate by the Minister of Finance to close the budget. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have come to the end of another budget debate, another significant milestone in Jamaica's democratic history. I believe Jamaicans will agree that this was one of the most engaging budget debates. As we close the fiscal year 2025-26, the year of the Category 5 Hurricane Melissa, we say thank you to the Almighty for safe passage. We know that many Jamaicans have been buffeted and bruised by Hurricane Melissa, and some have died. We mourn with the families. This government remains committed to helping survivors stand back up on their feet. Thank you, Jamaica. Thank you, Jamaicans from all walks of life, for your continued faith and confidence in this government, and for your patience as together we forge our way through the catastrophe that befell us. Madam Speaker, let me pause again to acknowledge my husband, who's listening to me now for the second time. He supports me every step of the way. Our children, my brothers, sisters, and many other family members. Of course, my faithful constituents from St. Andrew Eastern, the Financial Secretary and the staff at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, friends, and of course the people from my hometown, Tide Dixon, Jamaicans all. Madam Speaker, we look to the new fiscal year 2026-27, and beyond, with great optimism for reconstruction, growth, resurgence in the economy, and in the lives of all Jamaicans. I know that whatever station we are in life, we carry within us a desire for better, to achieve more, to continue moving up. This is the commitment of this government, to work diligently so that all Jamaicans, not some, all Jamaicans can achieve their full potential. Thank you for your significant engagement during this budget period. Our democracy is stronger for it. I am more energized to do your work, the work of the people of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, the cornerstones to move us from resilience to resurgence have been laid. The National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA, will enable execution of resilient infrastructure projects at a scale and speed this country has never seen before. Coupled with NARA is FAST Jamaica, facilitated acceleration of strategic transformation, to fast-track strategic priority investments of US $150 million or more that can commence implementation within a year and can be integrated into the NARA network of projects. Madam Speaker, the cornerstones to move us from resilience to resurgence have been set and driven by the builder himself, Prime Minister and His Holiness. Jamaicans can expect a new and different Jamaica to unfold over the next 3 to 5 years, Madam Speaker, right before our very eyes. And it will be Black River rebuilding forward smarter and better. Hopewell and Lucy Bypass and Lucy Harbor development. Montego Bay revitalizing our tourism capital. Falmouth, a blueprint for climate resilient coastal communities. North-South Highway Extension Project. Port Antonio, birthplace of Caribbean tourism reimagined. St. Thomas Port, Port of Kingston, building the region's premier logistics hub. The government campus, National Hero Circle. Kingston Public Hospital, rebuilt to modern international standards with resilience, continuity of care, and disaster readiness embedded to its core. Vernon Field Light Project. Roads, not only will we have new corridors for agricultural, industrial, and tourism development, but Madam Speaker, we will ensure no community is ever again isolated when disaster strikes. Housing, the most ambitious housing program in the NHT's history, will be rolled out, covering developments in St. Catherine, Trelawney, Manchester, Clarendon, Westmoreland, St. Thomas, St. Mary, Kingston, and beyond. We will unlock urban potential. We will turn blighted urban spaces into vibrant community, featuring urban gardens, parks, and recreational areas accessible to all. We will have thriving centers for local businesses, arts, and culture, breathing new life into communities. We will create affordable housing and service centers that provide dignity and stability for vulnerable residents. Madam Speaker, I say again, Jamaicans can indeed expect a new and different Jamaica to unfold over the next 3 to 5 years right before our very eyes. Madam Speaker, again, we have a builder with vision, a builder with integrity and energy, and a builder with a proven track record. Madam Speaker, the builder did not just give the vision. He gave a blueprint. But more importantly, the builder told Jamaicans how that vision will be financed.
Absolutely.
The US $6.7 billion package secured from our international partners, the World Bank, IADB, the IMF, CAF, and CBD, with $2.4 billion of that earmarked to crowd in the private sector, is a big part of that financing. Madam Speaker, this was a coherent package. International financing is in place. Never before in the history of Jamaica have we seen such a big financing package.
Never before.
Madam Speaker, of significance, our local financial markets, with the many reforms I announced in my opening budget speech, will have the greatest opportunity to participate in the rebuilding of Jamaica. Our Jamaica, rebuilt the way all of us want it to be, strong, resilient, and providing for the growth and development of industries and the people of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, I announced a raft of reforms in the financial sector that are expected to unlock capital for the reconstruction and resurgence of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, I wish to provide an update on pension reform. In addition to lifting of the limit for pension funds from 5% to 7.5% in the first instance, and then 10% by April of next year, to allow them to participate in local corporate and infrastructure financing. Madam Speaker, I promised the pension industry the implementation of Phase 2 of the pension reform, which includes long-awaited changes, such as portability, meaning when you leave a company and go to another company, your pension can follow you. Madam Speaker, I want to say to the President of the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica, I read your article in one of our daily newspapers. Like you, I want the pension reforms, Phase 2, to be implemented. This is way past overdue. However, I want to say to you, you will be pleased to see how far along is the legislation, and I will schedule a follow-up meeting with you. Madam Speaker, in addition to the raft of financial sector initiatives designed to unlock capital while maintaining the guardrails on risk, is the government's commitment to implement the public procurement set-asides framework, which I announced in my opening budget speech. I'm happy to say, Madam Speaker, that the Public Procurement Commission, the PPC, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Ministry of Industry, Investments and Commerce, and the Development Bank of Jamaica will be coordinating to host a public meeting to prepare small businesses for government contracts. The meeting is designed to help entrepreneurs understand and access government procurement opportunities. The public meeting will show our entrepreneurs how to qualify. They will hear about registration and compliance, and they will hear directly from the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the Public Procurement Commission, the Development Bank of Jamaica, and the Ministry of Industry, Investments and Commerce, Minister Aubin Hill, and the Small Business Association. Madam Speaker, the executives of the Small Business Association came to see me in my office at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service in January of this year, specifically on this matter of the public procurement set-asides framework. Madam Speaker, the opposition spokesman on finance made much regarding prior announcements on MSME procurement framework. He even came with newspaper articles. Well, opposition spokesman on finance, it is now being implemented. Yes, it is being implemented. I am pleased to note that since I met with the leadership of the Small Business Association, the Public Procurement Commission has been working on establishing and maintaining a verified list of qualifying small business suppliers so that they can easily identify eligible businesses when applying the set-asides provision. Work is underway. So, Madam Speaker, as a government, we say to small business owners, get ready. March 26th at 1 p.m. is the date, and Exim Bank's meeting room is the place. We're calling all micro enterprises with annual turnover below 15 million and small businesses with turnover between 15 million to 75 million to learn about the government's procurement process. This is a big deal, Madam Speaker. To think of it, Madam Speaker, we may have to open this meeting to the online platforms because I've already been receiving positive interest from small businesses from across Jamaica. Madam Speaker, I must confess, this is an announcement that gives me great joy to share details about, because now a company does not have to be big to bid. A company does not have to be big to bid for government procurement. The small contractor can now bid on projects within her company's capability. The tech startup can now have a fair chance to bid at digitizing records for our ministries, departments, and agencies. This is what this opportunity looks like under this administration, Madam Speaker. Small businesses will finally have a chance at government's procurement. Madam Speaker, it is no secret that I want to see more and more companies listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange to create an even more vibrant market and open possibilities for more of our local businesses. I am pleased to announce, Madam Speaker, that the Jamaica Stock Exchange has established a stock market sandbox, which is a simulated market environment designed to prepare businesses for the realities of operating as a publicly listed entity. The sandbox will expose prospective companies to the reporting obligations, corporate governance standards, and regulatory expectations they will face once listed. This will be available starting April 17, 2026. Madam Speaker, the sandbox will provide a low-risk setting that allows companies to learn, adapt, and build capacity before entering the live market. This innovation is expected to significantly improve the quality and readiness of businesses entering the micro and junior market, reduce compliance failures post-listing, and create a sustained, well-prepared issuer development pipeline for years to come. Madam Speaker, while this is happening, the Jamaica Stock Exchange is currently working in close partnership with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC, to identify and prepare the first cohort of businesses for listing. An initial group of 25 entities that have successfully graduated from the JBDC's Accelerator program, thank you, Minister Grange, has been identified as primary candidates. These businesses have already demonstrated a level of operational discipline and growth readiness. Madam Speaker, let me add my own congratulations to those businesses, and I look forward to sharing more on their successes as the program develops. Madam Speaker, I now take this opportunity to enlighten those who might have doubted our ability to navigate the world of digital trade. To them, I say the following. Firstly, many persons may not know, but Jamaica is the current chair of the UN Task Team on Digitalization under the UN Committee of Experts on Business and Trade Statistics. This means the committee provides guidance, coordinates and standardizes business and trade statistics, focuses on areas like globalization, digitalization, and statistical capacity building in member states. And this work is being led by one of our very own Jamaicans through the Bank of Jamaica. This is a very big deal. Madam Speaker, Jamaicans should be proud to know that Jamaica was featured in the 2023 edition of UN WTO OECD Handbook on Measuring Digital Trade, which included a case study on digital trade measurement involving Jamaica. The team's work looked at issues such as digital trade, e-commerce, and cross-border digital services. Much of the work the group is doing internationally focuses on the measurement issues governments around the world face when designing policies on digital trade and digital taxation. Madam Speaker, as the global economy becomes increasingly digital, countries must adapt how they understand and respond to new forms of economic activity. Services, Madam Speaker, already accounts for a substantial share of Jamaica's GDP, and an increasing portion of this activity is taking place through digital and cross-border channels. This is not simply a matter of getting revenues, but of ensuring that our economic systems are properly equipped to understand these developments. We're therefore strengthening our capacity to better measure and interpret digital economic activity so that our policies remain fair, balanced, and grounded in accurate information. Jamaica has provided global leadership on measuring digital economic activity. Having laid that context, Madam Speaker, let me say that the definition of digital trade has evolved to now where digital trade is defined as being digitally ordered and digitally delivered. Number two, digitally ordered and physically delivered. And number three, physically ordered and digitally delivered. Madam Speaker, definition number two, which is digitally ordered and physically delivered, are goods that we know that come into Jamaica through our ports and are already subject to taxes and duties. Obviously, these will not be the subject of any further taxes and duties as a result of the revenue measures. Madam Speaker, let me say it clearly. Digitally ordered and physically delivered trade was not included in our revenue measures. However, Madam Speaker, for measurement purpose, That is, when measuring digital trade in order to know how large is Jamaica's digital economy, definition number 2 is included. So, Madam Speaker, the size of Jamaica's digital economy is larger than the portion on which revenue measures are calculated. This definition that includes 1, 2, and 3 as per the screen is used by many countries, including Jamaica. Madam Speaker, in my opening budget presentation, I did speak to the impact on our local retailers of the competition they face with untaxed items coming onto our shores. The opposition spokesman on finance, rightly so, pointed to the increase in the de minimis threshold that this government implemented and asked if this was not policy contradiction. Madam Speaker, you will recall that as of April 1, 2024, the de minimis threshold in Jamaica was increased to US $100. Goods imported for personal or commercial use with a free on board or FOB value of $100 or less are exempt from custom duties and related taxes. If the value exceeds US $100, duties apply to the total CIF, and CIF means costs, insurance, and freight. Madam Speaker, let me put it straight to Jamaicans. When the de minimis threshold was increased from US $50 to US $100, it was not expected that we would see splitting up of orders to avoid taxes and duties. By splitting up, I mean the instances in which if you're ordering from the same vendor, instead of making one order, you make multiple orders. Take a scenario in which you're ordering 2 items and they cost $100 each. That's a total of US $200. Packaged and shipped in one package of $200, there would be tax on the CIF. Instead, what we're seeing is a splitting of the orders to fall within the US 100 de minimis allotment and an increase, Madam Speaker. Sometimes I could characterize it as a deluge in the number of US 100 and undervalued packages. Madam Speaker, the unforeseen consequence is that no revenues flow to the Treasury. And I must add, Madam Speaker, that is quite regrettable and was simply not the intent of the de minimis policy. Again, Madam Speaker, forgive me if I'm being pedantic, but it is imperative that everyone understands what I've shared. And when I draw a reference to our local retailers, it is because they are feeling the impact of untaxed goods coming in. And one way, well, they are feeling the impact. So, Madam Speaker, to the opposition spokesman on finance, I trust this explanation clarifies your assertion. Madam Speaker, the leader of opposition and the spokesman on finance both spoke to e-invoicing to generate additional revenues. Thank you for that. I welcome the public discussion on e-invoicing for all the benefits that it will provide, chief among them, improved tax collection and compliance, faster detection of fraud and anomalies, reduced administrative burden, better and timelier data. Madam Speaker, Jamaica has been on a journey in the modernization of tax administration, Jamaica, TAJ. The IDB has been a partner with the TAJ since 2014, when the Revenue Administration Information System, RAISE, began being implemented. Yes, Madam Speaker, the PNP government at the time started the modernization journey for the tax administration Jamaica. The RAISE system at the time represented a major effort to improve tax compliance streamline tax collection services, and help Jamaica to transition from a largely manual process to a comprehensive web-based tax administration platform. We on this side, Madam Speaker, have continued that journey to include a significant upgrade of the system by March 2027 to, among other things, make it easier to navigate the TAJ's website. Cabinet approved the procurement recently. Madam Speaker, our journey is set to begin with the scoping work for e-invoicing based on the digital maturity level of the TAJ system. As you can see, Madam Speaker, many modules have been installed over the years, from e-registry to e-filing to e-payment through to virtual file systems. And those with the check marks are those in place. Now, Madam Speaker, having done all the work since 2014 to get to this point, the e-invoicing work can now begin. Thank you to the dedicated team at the TAJ. It is going to require use of advanced electronic signature, field standardization, meaning how the data is collected, online validation operation modules, invoice verification, and will require technology to be deployed for interconnectivity between the taxpayer's system and that of the TAJ. Because, as you can imagine, Madam Speaker, e-invoicing is massively more transactions intensive than anything the TAJ has done in its history. Madam Speaker, we expect for e-invoicing to take at least 2 to 3 years to roll out and be fully operational. As you can see from the slide, it has taken other countries with more resources a lot longer to roll out. So we are being very ambitious in our 2 to 3 years time frame expectation. So we would be looking at fiscal year 2028-29 to begin to see a working e-invoicing system in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, contrary to what the opposition spokesman on finance would have us believe, there are no revenues to be earned from e-invoicing that the opposition spokesman on finance could credibly include in the budget for this upcoming fiscal year. Or even the next fiscal year. I don't have Madam Speaker, it not go work. It not go work. But Madam Speaker, let me say unequivocally that I welcome the discourse and the opposition's support and their positive stance for e-invoicing to be implemented in Jamaica with alacrity. I know we don't often see eye to eye on most matters, but on the need to move towards implementation of e-invoices, we can both claim that Jamaica will stand together. So, Madam Speaker, I turn now to the budget that the opposition spokesman on finance put forward. He said that electric invoicing system would deliver $8.6 billion in the upcoming fiscal year. He also, so Madam Speaker, I have to ask, what can go so? Madam Speaker, I want to say to the opposition spokesman on finance, there are no e-invoicing revenues that can be realistically expected in the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27, nor might I add in the next fiscal year to replace 8.6 billion of revenue measures. There is no magic bullet of e-invoicing gains that every global expert knows take years to materialize. So, Madam Speaker, I'm going to X out that figure, that 8.6 billion. Madam Speaker, this government will not gamble with the future of our country. Madam Speaker, we will not gamble with the future of our country. We do not seek to score cheap political points by entrusting the future of the vulnerable, the continued stability of the Jamaican dollar, the sustainability of our national debt, and our hard-earned reputation for central government's prudent financial management on the fantasy of major software upgrade happening overnight. Madam Speaker, we have chosen the path of fiscal responsibility because it is the only credible path that leads to a stable recovery. And that is where we will continue to be, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the issue of digital nomad, the proposal from the spokesman on finance reflects a worthwhile instinct, but it illustrates the difference between identifying a promising concept and presenting a fully developed fiscal instrument. A digital nomad program may well have merit as part of a broader strategy to diversify Jamaica's visitor economy, attract long-term remote workers, and stimulate spending in select sectors. However, it does not yet stand up as a sufficiently robust revenue measure for closing a gap in the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27. Madam Speaker, the issue is not that the idea lacks potential, but that it has been advanced without the level of policy architecture, implementation detail, and fiscal realism required for serious budget planning. Even in a sister Caribbean country that introduced the concept 5 years ago and has often been cited as an early mover, the results suggest caution rather than easy optimism. Thousands of digital nomads were attracted over the period, yet the revenue yield remained relatively modest, underscoring that such programs are better understood as medium-term economic enhancers than immediate fiscal solutions. Madam Speaker, the more thoughtful commentary that has since emerged is therefore correct. The proposal points in an interesting direction, but it requires considerably more work on eligibility, infrastructure, tax treatment, housing implications, health coverage, administrative design, and projected returns before it can credibly be presented as a measure capable of materially strengthening the government's revenue position for the upcoming fiscal year, fiscal 2026-27. So, Madam Speaker, I will also X that figure out for this upcoming fiscal year 2020. Madam Speaker, the opposition spokesman on finance said he would take $1 billion from Factories Corporation. This is a government entity that develops, lease, and manages industrial and commercial real estate throughout Jamaica. The primary goal of Factories Corporation is to drive economic growth by providing the infrastructure needed for businesses to operate. So I want to ask the opposition spokesman on finance, are you sure you want to take $1 billion out of a company that helps to drive economic growth? No. So I'm going to X out this one as well. Madam Speaker, of all the things the spokesman on finance said, the one that alarmed me the most is that he said he would take, and that was his word, he would take an additional $1 billion from the Bank of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, the Bank of Jamaica, by law, Mr. Lawyer, opposition leader, yes, determines the level of dividends that can reasonably be transferred in any year to the central government. There are strict guidelines in law. It is not advisable that the Minister of Finance calls the Bank of Jamaica and takes an additional $1 billion. So what happens if you need $20 billion, $100 billion, $200 billion? Would you simply take it from the Bank of Jamaica? Opposition spokesman on finance, Madam Speaker, that was what obtained in the long days ago when inflation ruled unfettered in Jamaica. In a particular period, let's say 1972 to 1980, Madam Speaker, the Bank of Jamaica became independent on April 15, 2021. It conducts a very sensitive monetary policy free of political interference. And so, FYI, you can't just take an additional $1 billion from the Bank of Jamaica, even if you think it won't compromise the institution's core function or its operational capacity. Madam Speaker, it appears the opposition spokesman on finance is telegraphing the intention of the opposition if it ever sits in the seat of government. Madam Speaker, a government cannot simply ask the Bank of Jamaica for funding. The amendments to the Bank of Jamaica Act, which established the inflation targeting regime and central bank independence, places explicit and intrinsic guardrails around how resources can move from Bank of Jamaica to government. Madam Speaker, those Jamaicans who are in business know that only realized profits can be distributed. It is the same for the Bank of Jamaica. Only realized profits can be distributed. And the Bank of Jamaica's capital to monetary liability ratio has to be at least 5% before any profits can be distributed. Madam Speaker, it is important that the opposition understands that only 25% of realized profits are distributed when capital to monetary liability ratio is greater than 5% and less than 8%. All the realized profits can only be distributed when the capital to monetary liability ratio is greater than 8%. No profits can be distributed if the capital to monetary liability ratio is less than 5%. In fact, Madam Speaker, the government would have to inject capital if the ratio falls below 3%. So really, in effect, neither the Bank of Jamaica or the government has any discretion where the distribution of profits are concerned. Madam Speaker, I was the junior minister in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service when the work started to establish the Bank of Jamaica as an independent institution responsible for policy directive for inflation to be in the 3 to 6% range. Madam Speaker, we have lived with relatively predictable inflation in Jamaica And so I say to the opposition spokesman on finance, do not try to sell to Jamaicans the notion that you can simply take $1 billion from the Bank of Jamaica. We've worked too hard to achieve a relatively stable inflation environment for anyone to try to undermine that very important pillar of our economy. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, come to think of it, the opposition has zero experience managing the country in an inflation targeting environment. They've never done it. So there's a thing or two, Madam Speaker, the opposition needs to learn. Madam Speaker, so, Madam Speaker, I will X out that $1 billion from the Bank of Jamaica. Yes, that's water. Madam Speaker, the maths is not mathsing. When you, Madam Speaker, when you replace recurring revenue stream, which is what the NHT contribution and the revenue measures are, when you replace those with debt, you have to keep borrowing because next year you will be in the same position. You have to find borrowed funds again to replace the recurring NHT and revenue measures, and it never stops. Obviously, you would have a choice to cut expenditure and or get additional revenues. So, Madam Speaker, to those of you who want additional clarification on what this will look like, let me give you the following example. Let's assume that the NHT contribution of $11.4 billion and the revenue measure of $18 billion are the only sources of income to government. These are recurring. This means that every year you can count on those funds going into the Treasury. But the opposition spokesman on finance has said no NHT contribution and no revenue measures. In discontinuing the NHT contribution and not doing the revenue measures, I ask, where would the money come from? The opposition spokesman on finance said he would borrow. Okay, that's his desire. So the opposition spokesman on finance borrows to replace the NHT contribution and the revenue measure in the upcoming fiscal year. What happens in the next fiscal year? The opposition spokesman on finance has to borrow again because the recurrent expenditures are not going away. But this time, the spokesman on finance has to borrow more because the $2 billion that the opposition spokesman on finance never sent to Airports Authority of Jamaica because he decided to defer the construction of AAJ's corporate headquarters into fiscal year 2027-28 is needed. The contractors are ready to mobilize. They're anxious. So the opposition spokesman on finance would have to include this $2 billion in his borrowing. Madam Speaker, what happens in year 3? The opposition spokesman on finance has to borrow again, using this very simplified example just to show you the impact of using debt to replace recurrent revenues. Madam Speaker, I am sure you get the picture, and this table shows the folly of that. So, Madam Speaker, instead of the need to borrow $29.4 billion. You're now at 31.4. And then back to 29.4, assuming no other expenses pop up on you. Madam Speaker, these are the intricacies of how numbers in one budget year relate to the numbers in another budget year. And when you lose recurrent revenues, trying to replace it with debt is a state of illusory happiness. Or false contentment based on misconception or a refusal to accept the truth of a situation. Madam Speaker, the spokesman on finance presented a case for using $19 billion in debt to replace the revenue measures in the upcoming fiscal year. I have demonstrated that he will need way more in debt because the e-invoicing and digital nomad revenue streams are not going to materialize for at least the next 2 to 3 years. Additionally, the opposition spokesman on finance would have to keep borrowing, as I demonstrated, with the recurrent expenditure as a result of not having the benefit of the contribution of NHG or the revenue measures. Madam Speaker, I'll pause on the opposition spokesman of finance and turn my attention to the leader of the opposition. Madam Speaker, on the part of the leader of the opposition, he said he identified revenues. Oh, my phone. He said, Madam Speaker, that he identified revenues of about 2% of GDP from compliance. Our projected GDP for fiscal year 2026-27 is $3,857 billion. And so 2% of that would be approximately $77 billion. And if you could make the screen larger so that they could see it. So, Madam Speaker, if the opposition leader identified $77 billion of new revenues from compliance, why then would the opposition spokesman on finance need to borrow any money at all? Madam Speaker, it appears the left hand is not coordinating with the right hand. Madam Speaker, a Prime Minister in waiting and a Finance Minister in waiting are possibly not talking. What can go so? What can go so? Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I now turn to what was presented by the leader of the opposition and his many promises that the Jamaican people are not likely to see fulfilled. Once again today, I will demonstrate how unhinged are the many proposals that the leader of the opposition has put forward. So, Madam Speaker, let's start out with the 77 billion of revenues. He said he could find that. All right, 77 billion. Promise number one, nutrition. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the first promise number 1, nutrition support to 245,000 school children every single school day. And if you assume $150 a day for 190 days for the school year, that would be $69.8 billion. Madam Speaker, it would practically wipe out the 77 from compliance, right? And of course, I used $150 because the child has to get breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon snack. So I couldn't give any less than that. Promise number 2, smaller classes. Very commendable, Madam Speaker, but can it be financed? You'd have to hire more teachers, and I assume you hire about 33.33% more teachers, or about 9,000 teachers. That would cost $41 billion. Transportation for 20,000 students outside the JUTC range. Assume 500 per day for 190 school days. That's $1.9 billion. And the first in the family scholarship program. And I know when the leader of opposition said that, I looked at the MP from St. Catherine North, and you could see he was quite annoyed that the leader of opposition would be there trotting out his idea of first in the family scholarship program. So Madam Speaker, a bachelor's of business administration costs about $457,000 per year, and this is a real number. Approximately 32,000 babies are born annually, of which roughly 30% are born to new mothers. So if you look at the cohort born 18 years ago, they're the ones who are 18 years today. There are about 9,600 of those. And the first in the family scholarship program would be $4.4 billion. And that would be an annual. But you're going to make sure. So you're not going to, but you're going to finance them. You're going to finance them. You're going to make sure they go. You are going to make sure they go. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker. Okay. But Madam Speaker, it seems I touched a corn over there. Promise number 5, investing in teacher training, a very lofty goal, Madam Speaker, currently. The Jamaica Teaching Council provides continuing professional development for teachers. So we'll add $300 million for additional spending. Promise number 6, modern learning techniques and materials for teachers. We'll add $1 billion there. $1 billion revolving loan fund. Path benefits for pregnant mothers, and again using the same statistics, 35,000 children born annually. That would be another $2.1 billion. 14 support centers for victims of abuse, 1 in every parish. Let's assume $350 million. Support to churches, $1 billion. This one, Madam Speaker, it's a new one. It's a new one. Promise number 11, clean slate for thousands of Jamaicans. There are 1,462 in the labor force. Madam Speaker, if you assume that they need relief of about $40,000 monthly, you're looking at $702 billion, right? There were no bounds around it. It didn't say it was a 10-year program. All right. Then, of course, you would end the NHG contribution and minimum wage would transition to living wage. That is, asked the PIOJ to develop this. So the deficit would be huge, Madam Speaker. Many times the $77 billion that the opposition leader said he would find from compliance. But then now, you would have to add the $19 billion that the spokesman on finance said he was going to borrow. And then the additional interest rate on top of that. Madam Speaker, the bottom line is, when you calculate the debt to GDP, where we are currently, we're projected to end fiscal year 2026-27 at 65.7%. When you add what the leader of the opposition would do when you add the cost of all his promises, we're looking at total debt to GDP at the end of fiscal 2026-27 of 87.3%. Madam Speaker, we're moving in the wrong direction. The wrong direction, Madam Speaker. Yes. Madam Speaker, this would be a return to profligacy, wanton spending, and using debt to fulfill promises. We know where this took us. During their administration. I don't know about you on that side, but over here we will not go back there. Madam Speaker, both the opposition leader and the opposition spokesman on finance said the environmental protection levy will be going to the consolidated fund. Here's what they said. The name of the tax suggests that the cash flows from it will be directed towards environmental protection, towards our coastlines, our watersheds, our forests, the very natural infrastructure that Melissa reminded us that we cannot afford to neglect. But the money goes into the consolidated fund, they said. None of it is ring-fenced for environmental purposes. So we have a levy collecting money in the name of the environment, but it is not dedicated to the environment. It's treated as another revenue source for the government. That's what they said. Well, Madam Speaker, the minister with responsibility for water, environment, and climate change will tell you that environmental protection levy is being pursued against the backdrop of the government's signaled intent to boost green growth to enhance climate resilience. This includes a target to expand protected areas by 30% by 2030, with 5 new areas planned for declaration in the coming financial year. Jamaica is also working to establish global resolutions to address the increase in plastic waste, building on the single-use plastic ban that began in 2019. So, Madam Speaker, both the opposition leader and the spokesman on finance are dead wrong. And they just need to look at Appendix 1, page 5 of the fiscal policy paper. Let me remind them what that looks like. It looks like this. That was laid in Parliament, a copy of which they got. And they can look in that to see how much of the budget is spent on environmental protection and conservation. In fiscal year 2024-25, the year of burial, $11.5 billion. In fiscal year 2025-26, the year of Melissa, $13.2 billion. And going forward, on average, for the medium term, $9.1 billion will be spent each fiscal year on protection of biodiversity and landscape, pollution abatement, solid waste management, and other environmental protection activities. So the spokesman on finance simply needs to turn to page 5 in Appendix 1, and he will see the spending. By the way, Madam Speaker, reporting our budget by functional classification only started under this government, fiscal year 2016-17. And so, Madam Speaker, the spokesman on finance would not be aware of this development. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I now want to address two of the revenue measures. Madam Speaker, following the announcement of the introduction of a special consumption tax, SCT, on non-alcoholic sweetened beverages in February 2026, we have received feedback from a number of stakeholders, including the beverage manufacturers and importers. Madam Speaker, we are a listening government. We listened to the various representations, clearly assess them, and where they have merit, we act. I am pleased, therefore, to advise this Honourable House of a change in the approach to the SCT on non-alcoholic sweetened beverages that will make the measure more effective and more equitable. Madam Speaker, let me be clear about the intent. The SCT on non-alcoholic sweetened beverages was conceived from the very beginning as a health measure. Its purpose is to address the burden of non-communicable disease, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, that bear down so heavily on our people and on our public health system. The original announcement of a rate of 2 cents per milliliter was made for reasons of administrative simplicity. A volumetric tax is straightforward to calculate, to collect, and to verify. However, stakeholders pointed out, and we agreed, that a flat volume-based tax does not vary by sugar content and therefore does not distinguish between a low sugar and a high sugar product. We took that concern seriously, and because health has always been the underlying intent of the measure, we have redesigned the SCT to be based We took that concern seriously, and because health has always been the underlying intent of the measure, We have redesigned the SCT to be based directly on sugar content rather than on the volume of the beverage. Madam Speaker, the special consumption tax on non-alcoholic sweetened beverage will therefore be levied at a rate of 22 cents per gram of added sugar rather than on the volume of the beverage. Madam Speaker, this change will require some lead time for manufacturers, importers, and our tax administration to prepare. As a result, the SCT will go into effect on May 1, 2026 instead of April 1, as previously announced. Madam Speaker, the logic of this design is simple and principled. It is the sugar that causes the harm, so it is the sugar that should be taxed. A beverage with no added sugar will attract no SCT. A beverage with modest added sugar will attract a modest SCT. A beverage with higher sugar content will attract a higher SCT directly and proportionally. This is entirely consistent with how the SCT on alcohol is levied based on liters of pure alcohol. Importantly, Madam Speaker, this structure creates a genuine commercial incentive for manufacturers and importers to reduce the sugar content of their products. The lower the sugar, the lower the tax. Madam Speaker, I also want to signal clearly that this is not the end of the conversation, as we will monitor this application in practice, its effect on prices, on consumption patterns, on reformulation decisions, and on public health outcomes. We recognize that during implementation, practical questions may arise that were not anticipated in advance, and the government is committed to working through those questions in good faith. We will continue a structured dialogue with both the beverage industry and with health professionals on how this measure can be strengthened and improved over time. To manufacturers and importers, the message is straightforward. Reduce the sugar in your products and the tax burden falls. The government is not seeking to harm a sector that employs thousands of Jamaicans. We're changing the incentive structure, and we believe the industry is fully capable of responding to it. To the Jamaican public, I ask you to consider there's hardly a family in this country that has not been touched by diabetes, hypertension, or obesity. These are not distant statistics. They are our parents, our children, our siblings, our neighbors. Every lower sugar product on our shelves is a step in the right direction, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, every informed choice at the shop counter is an act of investment in your own health and in the health of this nation. This government is changing the incentives for industry and for consumers alike, because a healthier Jamaica is a more productive Jamaica. And a more productive Jamaica is the foundation of everything else we're trying to build. But Madam Speaker, we told the industry that in the rethinking and recasting of this, we have to remain revenue neutral. I turn now to changes to environmental protection levy. Madam Speaker, we also received feedback on the changes announced to the environmental protection levy. I had announced that the base on which the levy is applied for manufacturers would move from 75% to 100% of sales. The manufacturers raised a legitimate concern. that this change would place local manufacturers at a disadvantage relative to importers, on whom the Environmental Protection Levy is applied to CIF value, which naturally excludes the distribution margin that is embedded in the selling price. When the 75% base for manufacturers was introduced in 2015, Madam Speaker, it was deliberately designed to put domestic producers on a level footing with importers. Madam Speaker, we're therefore retaining the 75% of sales base for manufacturers. However, Madam Speaker, to maintain revenue neutrality with the retention of the 75% manufacturers base, we'll have to increase the Environmental Protection Levy rate modestly from 0.8% as previously announced to 0.85% for both manufacturers and importers. Madam Speaker, I want to be explicit on the fiscal position. Both of these changes have been carefully calibrated to be revenue neutral. The projected yield from the consumption tax on non-alcoholic sweetened beverage and the Environmental Protection Levy remains as previously announced. Madam Speaker, we've met with the beverage manufacturers. They've asked us to go to the tiered approach, to which we are not opposed. And the Ministry of Health and Wellness prefers the tiered approach. In the course of the year, we will continue the working group, which consists of Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, and the manufacturers to work towards the tiered system. But we will begin with the simple application that targets the grams of sugar. We will have a standard, well, I just announced the standard rate per gram of sugar. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to highlight that in keeping with this administration leadership style, we listened intently to the industry. Madam Speaker, in closing this fiscal 2026-27 budget debate, I choose to reiterate that history will only repeat itself should the opposition have a chance to implement their recommendations without concern for whether or not they're being funded. There's no way that Jamaica today can return to the Jamaica of the run with it policy. And the wanton abandonment of fiscal responsibility characteristics of their style of government. Why else would they trot out again this year the raft of promises that cannot be fully funded? It is apparent that there is blatant disregard for the steady hand with which we have led and the diligence and stability that we have sought to create. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister demonstrated the massive reconstruction opportunities that will become available to Jamaicans and the vision of a resurgent Jamaica. As I said at the beginning of my speech, the cornerstones to move us from resilience to resurgence have been set and driven by the builder himself, Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Jamaicans can expect a new and different Jamaica to unfold over the next 3 to 5 years, right before our very eyes. Madam Speaker, I confirm that this budget that has been presented is designed to build a caring economy, a compassionate economy, one that improves lives and creates a stronger and more resilient nation by God's grace. So, Madam Speaker, I say from the bottom of my heart, God bless Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I ask for the bill to be read a second time.
Thank you. The question is that the Appropriations Bill be read a second time. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Clerk.
A bill entitled An Act to Apply a Sum out of the Consolidated Fund to the Service of the Year ending on the 31st day of March 2027 and to appropriate the sums granted in this session of Parliament be read a second time.
Thank you. The House will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole House to consider the bill clause by clause. Marshall. Minister of Finance, members, we are now in committee, Standing Finance Committee. Minister, how would you like to proceed?
For the clauses, Madam Speaker.
Members, I put clause 1. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 2. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 3. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. I put the schedule, sections 2 and 3. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. I put the title and enacting clause. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. The question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage with no amendments. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it.
Okay.
Thank you, Marshall. We're back in the House. I do report the bill as having passed committee stage without amendments. Minister.
Madam Speaker, I now ask that the bill be read a third time.
Thank you. The question is that the bill be read a third time. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Clerk.
An act to apply a sum out of the Consolidated Fund to the service of the year ending on the 31st day of March 2027 and to appropriate the sums granted in this session of Parliament is read a third time and passed.
House Leader.
You ready for this? Yeah. Madam Speaker, let me again thank the Minister of Finance for masterful closing of the budget debate, setting the record straight and showing us reality from fantasy. Madam Speaker, as we are in public business, we had tabled on the 10th day of March, the Civil Service Establishment General Order was laid on the House and notice given for its affirmation. Today we will take that order, and as such, I ask that you turn back over to the Minister of Finance.
Minister of Finance, you may commence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In accordance with the Civil Service Establishment Act, in accordance with the Civil Service Establishment Act 1976, the Civil Service Establishment General Order 2026 has been prepared and is presented to indicate changes to the Civil Service Establishment General Order 2024. The Civil Service Establishment General Order 2026 outlines the reorganization of ministries and departments and consequently the creation of new posts, abolition of posts and the reclassification, upgrading and retitling of existing posts. The major changes are to be effected in the General Order 2026 and include the integration of the National Council on Drug Abuse into the Ministry of Health and Wellness as a department. This action follows Cabinet Decision number 18/21 and 33/17, which granted approval, and the subsequent passage of the National Council on Drug Abuse Repeal Act 2023 number 15, which legally transferred the National Council on Drug Abuse, legally transferred those functions to the ministry responsible for health and restructured it as a department within the ministry. The key drivers for this integration are an expanded mandate for the National Council on Drug Abuse, now encompassing responsibility for national mental health prevention strategies and harm reduction, in addition to its traditional focus on drug abuse education and prevention. Madam Speaker, the recognition that the existing National Council on Drug Abuse structure as a statutory body was inadequate and no longer fit for purpose to effectively realize this new broader mandate, especially considering the increased prevalence and accessibility of drugs. Madam Speaker, the need for a new organizational design to accommodate the expanded roles, responsibilities, and a new governance context where management reports to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health and Wellness instead of a board. It's also a strategic shift towards a more proactive and preventative approach in substance abuse and mental wellness. Madam Speaker, this integration involves establishing 306 posts and creating several new branches. For example, strategic planning, research, prevention/education/treatment. There's also retitling and transferring of one post, abolishing 46 posts under the old National Council on Drug Abuse structure when vacant, aligning with redundancy plans under the Public Sector Transformation Action Plan. Madam Speaker, the retitling of the Ministry of Education and Youth to the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. In addition, a comprehensive restructuring across several key operational areas happened within the ministry. This affected the regional financial management sections, the newly amalgamated Examinations and Assessment Administration Services branch, merging the former with the latter, and the reorganized regional building sections, renamed Regional Maintenance and Infrastructure Development sections. Madam Speaker, after years without review, this extensive reorganization addresses long-standing structural weaknesses, insufficient staffing, and increased workloads. The reform aimed to strengthen financial management and internal controls, streamline examination and assessment processes, enhance infrastructure maintenance oversight, and better align the ministry's structure with its operational needs and strategic mandates. These combined Ministry of Education initiatives involve establishing 106 posts, including the regularization of 9 temporary posts, upgrading 38 posts, reclassifying 38 posts, retitling 86 posts, abolishing 1 post when vacant. Madam Speaker, there was also the establishment of 102 posts within the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF, to enhance ICT capabilities, improve organizational efficiency, and support technological advances like Jamaica Eye and the Station Records Management System, addressing staffing needs in critical technical areas. Madam Speaker, there was also the abolition of 1,250 vacant posts from the central government vestige of the Tax Administration Directorate. The general amendment reflects changes in 3 areas. Part 1. This section shows changes in the complement of posts in ministries and departments. It reflects changes in posts, for example, reclassification of posts, new posts created, retitling of posts, upgrading of posts, and the effective dates for these changes. The breakdown is as follows. 1,481 posts were created. 299 posts were upgraded. 221 posts were reclassified. 645 posts were retitled. 1 post was regraded. 6 posts were reinstated. Madam Speaker, in Part 2 of the book, this section shows the revision of salaries for the 2022 through to the 2026 contract period, consequent on the heads of agreements signed between the Government of Jamaica, various unions, and bargaining groups. Part 3, Madam Speaker, abolitions. This section shows the abolition of 1,325 posts from the establishment of several ministries and departments. Madam Speaker, the affirmative resolution is therefore sought for the Civil Service Establishment General Order 2026. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Minister, thank you. Could you turn on your mic, Minister? I'm asking if you could now move the motion, notice of which you had given.
Madam Speaker, I now move that the motion, notice of which was given on the 10th day of March 2026, be approved.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the question is that the motion, notice of which was given on the 10th day of March 2026, be approved. Those in favour? Those against, the ayes have it. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I now ask for the recommittal of motions, notice of motions given orally.
The question is that we recommit notices of motions given orally. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, the ayes have it. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the pensions, superannuation funds and retirement schemes, registration, licensing and reporting amendment regulations 2026 resolution. Whereas Section 58(1) of the Pension, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes Act, hereinafter referred to as the Act, provides that the Financial Services Commission may, with the approval of the Minister, make regulations for such matters as may be necessary or expedient for the purposes of the Act. And whereas on the 11th day of March 2026, the Financial Services Commission, with the approval of the Minister, made the Pension, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Scheme Registration, Licensing and Reporting Amendment Regulation 2026. And whereas Section 58(2) of the Act provides that regulations made under Section 58(10) shall be subject to affirmative resolution. And whereas it is desirable that the Pension, Superannuation Fund and Retirement Schemes, Registration, Licensing and Reporting Amendment Regulations 2026 be affirmed. Now therefore be it resolved by this Honourable House as follows. The resolution may be cited as the Pension, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes, Registration, Licensing and Reporting Amendment Regulations 2026 Resolution. The Pension, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes, Registration, Licensing and Reporting Amendment Regulation 2026, which was laid on the table of the House on the 24th day of March 2026, is hereby affirmed.
Minister.
Insurance. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the Insurance Amendment of 20th Schedule Regulation 2026, which was laid on the table of the House on the 24th day of March 2026, be referred to the Regulations Committee of the House for consideration and report. And Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the Conch Export Levy Rate of Levy Order 2026 Resolution. Whereas Section 31C2 of the Conch Export Levy Act, hereinafter referred to as the Act, provides that the Minister may, from time to time, by order subject to affirmative resolution of the House of Representatives, prescribe the rate of levy to be paid to the Veterinary Services Division by exporters for any conch season after the 2010 conch season. And whereas on the 12th day of March 2026, the Minister made the Conch Export Levy Rate of Levy Order 2026, and whereas it is desirable that the Conch Export Levy Rate of Levy Order 2026 be affirmed, now therefore be resolved by this Honourable House as follows. 1. This resolution may be cited as the Conch Export Levy Rate of Levy Order 2026 Resolution. 2. The Conch Export Levy Rate of Levy Order 2026, which was laid on the table of the House on the 24th day of March 2026, is affirmed. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you, House Leader. We continue in public business. House Leader.
Okay.
Minister of Finance will go first.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the insurance amendment of... No, sorry.
Minister, hold a moment, please.
Oh, sorry. Madam Speaker.
House Leader, in the interim, would you be so kind as to go to public business with the order you gave, and then we'll go back to Minister of Finance, please?
No problem. Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier today.
The question is, we suspend the standing orders to allow for the Minister's motion. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, this Honourable House should note that the Conch Export Levy Act was passed in 2009 with its main purpose to facilitate the imposition of a levy to be paid on each pound of conch exported during each conch season, pursuant to Section 3 of the Act. Section 9 of the Act, which established the Fisheries Management Development Fund, the fund, mandates that all the proceeds of the levy collected are to be allocated to the fund to facilitate the sustainable management and development of the fisheries sector. Section 11 of the Act stipulates that any exporter who fails to pay the levy commits an offence and is liable to summary conviction in a parish court to a fine equivalent to 5 times the value of the unpaid amount of the levy, or $3 million, whichever is greater, and in default of payment, to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months. Section 12 of the Act provides for the unpaid levy to be recovered summarily by the Commissioner without limit to the amount as a civil debt in a parish court at the suit of the Attorney General. Madam Speaker, for this conch season, I have decided not to increase the rate of levy currently charged. Therefore, the rate of 50 cents in the currency of the United States of America, or its Jamaican equivalent, per pound of conch exported remains in place for the 2026 conch season. In exercise of the power conferred upon me as Minister and pursuant to Section 31C2 of the Act, on March 12, 2026, I made the order for an exporter to pay a levy at the rate of 50 US cents, or its Jamaican equivalent, to the Veterinary Services Division for each pound of conch exported during the 2026 conch season. The object of the order pursuant to Section 3 of the Act is to legally require a person who proposes to export or who exports conch to pay to the Veterinary Services Division a levy of 50 cents in the currency of the United States of America, or the equivalent in Jamaican currency, for each pound of conch exported during the 2026 conch season. In the circumstances, Madam Speaker, and as I indicated, there is no intention to increase the levy, as I think all members of the House can understand. With the passage of Hurricane Melissa, a number of our industrial fishers would have suffered significant damage, and as such, given the matters highlighted above, I ask this Honourable House for its support in affirming by resolution the conch export levy, rate of levy, Order 2026.
Thank you. Thank you, House Leader. The member from Clarendon Northwest? From Westmoreland. From Westmoreland Central it is.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have found a home now. I will not be moving anymore.
Afterwards, it will be... You have a mic on there.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In relation to this matter...
Member Campbell, turn your mic on again, please. Thanks. And then Member Jackson, turn yours on. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. in relation to this matter, I just have a few queries. The minister phrased it to say that he would not be increasing the levy this year based on the impact of Hurricane Melissa. I'm just wondering, though, if there was consideration that you could waive it or that you could decrease it to give them an opportunity to recover. The folks in Westmoreland and in St. Elizabeth suffered severe damage. There's one particular proprietor that operates in both your constituency and mine, Minister, and he suffered significant damage to his facility, and I'm sure it would be significant if he could get a waiver or a deferral, or even in the event where they make the payment after selling the cow, because it must be one of the only industries where we actually charge persons to export the items. Right? A selected few, at least, that we actually charge persons to export. So if you give them a quota for, say, 100,000 pounds of cow, they have to come up with 50,000 US. Because that's what it represents, 50 cents per pound. So if they get the quota for 100,000 pounds of cow to export, they have to come up front with 50,000 US, which seems a little bit, especially under the circumstances, it seems a little bit onerous to those persons who are participating in the industry. And I do believe that we are one of the few countries that has MSC certification for Conch, and therefore, based on that, we should allow persons that participate in the industry to be able to earn sufficiently so that they can support their families. So those are my few comments. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member from Westmoreland Eastern. Member from St. Catherine South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, just two short questions. Could you indicate what the volume, the annual volume is like for our conch export? And secondly, can you comment on whether or not there is any continued incursion of the reaping of conch in Jamaican waters? Because it once used to be a major challenge for our conch exporters. Thank you.
Thank you, members. I will start with Member Jackson, member from St. Catherine. So, based on the interventions of the government with the procurement of vessels to support the work of the JDF Coast Guard, we have seen much less in terms of incursion. I won't tell you that it is completely wiped out, but significant reduction. In fact, the first day that we purchased and put out the new vessel, they caught people. And this was years ago now. We have since that time more than doubled the fleet that is out there. So we're seeing a much significant decrease in those incursions, and it is also showing in terms of the population of conch that we have out there, which has allowed us to increase the quota over the last 2 years. I think we're now at 300 metric tons for the export amount. I will double check just to ensure I have the, yeah. Yes, our main market is the EU. Our main market continues to be the EU. And just to say, we are taking steps to go into value addition, right? So we're not, as you would have heard, we are now the only MSC certified wild-caught conch in the entire world. And why that is something for us to celebrate, you may remember that a few years ago, we shut down our conch industry because our numbers were not sufficient. And we managed that for 2 years. And we worked with the industry to ensure that when we went back in, we were top of the class in terms of sustainability. So now Jamaica is the only country in the world that has a wild-caught conch that is MSC certified, which is something very, very significant. The opposition spokesperson on agriculture, just a couple things. So, in relation to the maintenance of the levy at this rate is actually a reduced rate, right? So when we had come back after the 2-year that we did not have conch fisheries, when I met with the industry, we agreed that we would reduce the usual rate. So we cut the rate in half. So it was actually $1. So what we have been doing is maintaining this rate. So I said for this year, because we had to maintain it because of Hurricane Beryl, we also had to maintain it. But it is important that we have some resources, because to maintain our MSC certification, we have to do things like annual conch surveys, and it costs, right? So we still have to maintain some inflows. However, we are taking steps to treat with what you have said, and you will see that probably next week we will bring a bill to Parliament that gives the minister the power to waive or to accept a partial payment or payment in installments, so that people will be able to export and not have to pay all of the cents. So we've already done that work. In fact, we moved to do that. I moved to that as minister when we had Hurricane Beryl, and recognized that legally you did not have the power to so do. So we have gone through the legislative process. Cabinet has already approved the legislation, and I expect it will be before the House. The next time we sit, it will be before the House. So that will treat with that and give us the ability to work with those fishers. Just to say as well, and I will highlight it when I do make my presentation, my substantive presentation. But just to say, we have been rolling out a package of direct support to a number of those fishers, not just our small artisanal fishers, but also those intermediate fishers and the industrial fishers. And the package of support starts from about 200,000, but most of the intermediate fishers have gotten between 1 million to 3 million in direct grant, and most of the industrial fishers have gotten between 3 million to 5 million in direct grants to help them to start again, seeing that they suffered so much damage. With that said, Madam Speaker, I ask that the motion be approved.
House, the question is that the motion be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
The question is that the standing orders be suspended to allow the minister to take the motion, notice of which was given earlier. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I ask that the motion be approved.
Members, the question is that the motion, notice of which was given earlier, be approved. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader? No, it wasn't.
Madam Speaker, it is not intended to do any further business today, and as such, I ask that the House be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Members, we are in receipt of communication in respect of the National Blood Drive. I'm just putting out to the members, this is preliminarily, that there will be an exercise conducted, and we are encouraging all members to at least put yourself up for screening to see if you're able to contribute to giving blood, as we encourage all Jamaicans to give blood where they can so that it saves lives. We will, many of us, be encouraging Jamaicans by us setting the example in the House. So, Minister of State and the Minister of State in the Ministry of Health and Wellness has been given charge by the lead minister, Minister Tufton, and you will see her conversing with you. Please let her know your willingness and your intent to partake in the blood drive once the screening is ready. Thanks, members. As said by the House Leader, there will be no further business for today. I ask that this House adjourn. Members, those in favour? Not yet. Not yet. Members, this honourable House now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.
We want a piece for Jamaica. Yeah, yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah, yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. And make we enjoy life. While we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. And make the violence the world. Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. You fi check out the servings, just do the maths. Not taking too much, figure below the facts. Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. Take note of the sodium, the sugars and the fats. 5% or less in on the right track. You fi zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. Vitamins, minerals and vitamin 20% and more that good for you. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. Less sugar, less salt, intake and less fat. You fi zoom in.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica Moves, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the National Health Fund, and JAPNET.
From seed to sale, Jamaica's future grows through innovation. Introducing Export Jamaica, a global market intelligence and compliance gateway that connects your effort with global opportunities and makes international trade easier, safer, and more convenient for Jamaican businesses. Powered by the Jamaica Trade Board Limited, Export Jamaica is designed to position your products competitively and guide you through international trade. Find high-demand international markets. Gain access to trade analytics that guide your business decisions.